Dirt Tracks TV is sponsored by Polaris, think outside. Can-Am, follow your path. Yamaha, revs your heart. And by Honda Power Sports, power your dreams, whatever the terrain.
I was shocked to learn at Can-Am's 2025 new model intro that the XMR alone accounts for almost 50% of total Can-Am big bore ATV sales. That is a lot of XMR 850 and 1000Rs. It therefore came as no surprise when at that 2025 new model intro, where we were introduced to the new Outlander G3 platform and its 101 horsepower 1000cc engine, we were also introduced to an all-new G3 based big bore XMR in both 850 and 1000R flavors. Now, all new seems to mean different things to different people. To Can-Am, at least in this case, it means an ATV assembled with 95% new parts. All G3 Outlanders are based on the same chassis and engine, including the XMR, but as you sort through the G3 Outlander lineup, you'll find different combinations of parts on different models to help separate them from each other. What's interesting is that I'm not just talking about the usual stuff like wheels and tires and gauge packages. I'm talking about mechanical stuff like power steering, brakes, differentials, radiators and fans, and many others. There are differences between the 850 and 1000R models, and there are differences within the 850 and 1000R lineups themselves. The XMR is a model all unto itself, and it includes a long list of mud-specific features and upgrades aimed specifically at making it the very best mud-specific ATV this industry has ever seen. Today, I want to take a look at what sets the XMR apart from the rest of its G3 siblings. Then, I want to talk about the unique approach Can-Am took to get the 2025 XMR to where it is today, and why that unique approach has netted a vehicle that, I think, will exceed the expectations of any rider who spends most of their time buried in the mud. The heart of the 2025 XMR is, without a doubt, its 101 horsepower dual overhead cam V-twin engine. This is the most powerful engine ever shoehorned into a factory ATV, both in terms of horsepower and torque. The clutches are also new. With BRP's legendary P-Drive primary and the all-new roller secondary, the transmission on the G3 XMR is smoother, backshifts faster, and is easier on the belt than any that's come before it. Like XMRs in the past, the 2025 model includes lower low-range gearing than any other Outlander, and this is extremely important for both keeping the wheels turning and protecting your belt when things get really deep and sticky. Furthermore, a brand new tire was also developed by XPS specifically for the new G3 XMR. The 30-inch Swamp King XL features a deep lug with a cupped sidewall for excellent traction in both mud and ruts. A continuous lug design also helps keep sound and vibration at a minimum when you're on the trail getting to your favorite mud spot. The new G3 chassis has gone away from Can-Am's trailing arm rear suspension in favor of more traditional double A-arms out back. The lower A-arms are arched front and rear to help with overall ground clearance, and 10.8 and 12 inches of travel is damped by a set of Showa aluminum-bodied preload adjustable shocks. Can-Am's amazing Visco 4-lock front differential comes standard on the 1000R, and both the front and rear diffs now feature spiral bevel gears. Like the standard Outlander, the new G3 XMR features a long list of rider assist features that are adjustable right from the handlebars. Tri-mode DPS, 3 intelligent throttle settings, 3 engine braking settings, and 3 differential settings all allow you to tune your Outlander to handle exactly how you want it to on the trail. Another notable change for 2025 that is standard on both 850 and 1000R XMRs is 4-position braking. This new setup is extremely powerful, has great feel, excellent modulation, and doesn't chatter like the old 3-position setup did. As I said earlier, this new G3 Outlander XMR 1000R gets a long list of mud-specific upgrades and features that you won't find anywhere else in the Outlander lineup. The front rad relocate, engine and clutch intake snorkels, XMR-specific front bumper with winch mount, rear rack, raised foot pegs, aluminum handlebars with J-hooks, and a center grab handle are all designed to improve performance, handling, and reliability when riding in extreme conditions and set the XMR models apart both functionally and visually from the rest of the Outlander lineup. If you were going to build a mud-specific ATV, you'd obviously want an excellent team of engineers to help design it. That makes sense. But if it were me, I'd also want to consult some professional mud riders to find out what they think a mud-specific ATV should be and how it should perform and what features it should have. This is exactly what Can-Am did when they called on two of the most well-known and talented mud riders, Dustin Jones and Ostacruiser, to test the early G3 XMR prototypes and give their feedback. What I think is the coolest part of this whole story is the fact that after Dustin and Dave had ridden the early versions of the G3 XMR, they had some suggestions for important, and in a couple cases pretty significant changes, and Can-Am actually listened and made those changes. Now I got a hold of Ostacruiser to get his first-hand thoughts on what it was like to have a direct influence on the 2025 XMR and how that final product actually works.
We're the end user when you look at it. We ride these things every weekend, so to be asked on any sort of level on the input of changes and tweaks they could make, it was overall just a freaking awesome experience. What was really cool is I was invited down about 18 months before release, and they really wanted our input on several things about the XMR. So I'll say I had a small part, but it was a very, very exciting part in the overall development of the new XMR. So the conditions we were riding in, it was very, very cool. It was almost like a secret location. It's like a Can-Am testing facility in Florida. They have a water section for Sea-Doo craft, and then they have this whole mud section. So it was trails with deep mud holes, but the overall facility, it couldn't have been a better match for this. It was deep clay, like we had it buried so many times. So the entire experience, even just to be asked to come down and give our input, it was freaking thrilling. We got down there, the whole front and the whole rear was just fiberglass. So they really wanted our input on what tweaks and changes they could make. So the first prototypes, their performance, I want to say they were 90% dialed. The drivetrain, the clutches, the diffs, all that was all completed already. And after our first loop, we got back and engineers wanted our kind of immediate comments. The very first thing was, I could not believe how smooth it rode for an XMR machine. They're usually sprung very rigid and really doesn't give you the best trail ride. But I'm telling you, these new G3 machines, they ride like no other XMR to date. So we really wanted the most accessibility to the rad for cleaning. And for the rear, we wanted to be able to strap down as many link accessories as we could, but we needed handles, right? When you get stuck, that's one of the little bit of drawbacks to the Renegade. There's nothing to push on when you're stuck for your buddies to push on. So we're like, with Outlander, I'm like, let's put as many handles as we can. They watched us ride and they watched us sort of water wheelie, and you just instinctively put your foot back up on the rear rack. It helps with balance. And they took that, what they seen, and they just made a really nice integrated foot hold for you on the rear rack. So stuff like that, just very cool. Shows they're listening, shows they're watching. My very first ride on it, I was blown away on the performance. I was blasting the ruts as hard as I could. I wanted to push this thing as hard as I could, and it just ate everything up. To me, it's a very confidence-inspiring ride just because of how well it handles it, how well it soaks up ruts and stuff. It doesn't pogo you around. It just seems to eat that up. The overall facility, it couldn't have been a better match for this. It was deep clay, like we had it buried so many times. The new clutches on the Gen 3, no belt chirp. It was like having full aftermarket clutches. Really nice low gear, and those clutches, like I was rotating. You couldn't really even see the tires. They were buried so bad in clay. And as we're winching out, I'm just feathering the throttle, getting the tires to move and winch straight out. Never smelled belt, never heard a chirp. Having the engineers take our input and actually make changes really shows that Can-Am is listening to, like us, we're the end user. So I don't think I can oversell it. How I feel about the new Gen 3 XMR 1000, best performing, best riding, easiest handling, the power steering, it is the best XMR Can-Am has ever built.
Dirt Trax is sponsored by Princess Auto. Make it work.
Honda's Pioneer 1005P is an extremely versatile side-by-side. It's the only side-by-side in the industry whose cargo bed can convert into space for 2 extra passengers while still retaining its dumping capabilities. AJ and I both spent some time in Pioneers this past season, and we both agree that the Pioneer 1000 is a tough and durable side-by-side that fits into a space in the market nothing else currently does. From recreational riding to adventuring to working hard day in and day out, the Pioneer is more than up to the task. Where I live in Ontario, Canada, winters can hit us hard, so having a side-by-side that can be used all year is extremely important. People like me who live in areas that get big winters use their side-by-sides for countless things. In Quebec, there's even an entire trail network for ATVs and side-by-sides that's maintained all winter long. But there's no question the most popular use for a side-by-side in the winter is for plowing. In my opinion, a properly equipped side-by-side will plow better than most full-size vehicles. With that in mind, we really wanted to find out how Honda's Pioneer, with its unique dual-clutch gear-on-gear transmission, would work for this purpose. But we wanted to take things further than just adding a plow. If we're going to build a Pioneer 1000 to plow, why not go big and add all the accessories? So that's exactly what we did. Now the list of genuine Honda accessories on this Pioneer 1000 is pretty long. The most obvious ones are, of course, the plow and the plow mounting frame, the windshield, the roof, the upper fabric doors, and the rear screen. The ones you'll need to look a little harder for consist of a bed liner, a worn VRX 4,500 pound winch with steel cable, a front bumper and brush guard, front fender flares, rubber floor mats, an auxiliary A-pillar mounted lights, and a roof mounted light bar. Let's start by talking about our reasoning behind each upgrade. Then we'll transition into talking about how our heavily upgraded Pioneer 1000 actually works in the snow. Now I'll admit some of these upgrades might seem confusing to anyone not used to snowy climates. For instance, the fender flares help keep the slush from flying up onto your windshield or your windows. And the front and rear bumpers, they look tough, but honestly they're not really necessary. The parts that are necessary are the cab and plow components. There are numerous cab options from Honda that range from easy to afford to very expensive. We chose affordable ones that still work the way we want them to. The one-piece roof helps keep the snow from falling on you while you're working outside. The fabric upper doors do the same while also protecting you from cold side winds. The windshield is pretty self-explanatory, and the fabric mid-panel helps to seal up the cab a little bit to keep the cold wind and snow out as much as possible while still retaining the cargo bed's ability to tilt. Warn's VRX 4500 winch is a multi-purpose accessory. Obviously it's needed to lift and lower the plow, but its 50 feet of steel cable, 4,500 pound capacity, and Warn's all-new clutch system make it an accessory that's totally useful all year. The plow itself is a pretty impressive setup. The blade is 72 inches wide and 17 inches tall. It's made of 15-gauge powder-coated steel that has formed reinforcements for extra strength and durability. Its angle can be adjusted with one hand, and installation and removal literally just takes a few seconds. Now finally, anyone who plows knows the auxiliary lights are a must-have for plowing in the evenings, as the blowing snow can totally kill visibility. Now with our Pioneer setup like this, it should make for one very comfortable and capable wintertime workhorse, but only testing can tell the whole truth. The Pioneer's dual clutch transmission and limited slip front differential are two things that will help with plowing in a big way. Obviously, traction is of the utmost importance for this type of work, but so is having the tightest possible turning radius. Maneuvering a side-by-side with a plow in tight spaces is hard enough as it is, without a locked front differential making turning even more difficult. Honda's dual clutch transmission has a few benefits over a belt setup as well. The most obvious is that there is no belt to wear or potentially get damaged under the consistent heavy loads that are common while you're plowing. Reliability for a vehicle like this is of the utmost importance. The last thing you want is to be without your snow clearing equipment in the middle of the winter or having to change a belt in the driveway at -25°C. The second thing that Honda's DCT transmission offers that a belt transmission simply can't is the ability to hold a gear without shifting up. There are times when you want your plow vehicle to stay in one specific gear while you're pushing snow. Honda's DCT manual mode allows you to do just that. You can simply select second gear and push snow at a steady speed. It might seem like a small point, but for some people it's an important one. The act of plowing snow is basically just shifting from forward to reverse over and over. Now it's repetitive, but it's not difficult. However, it can be very frustrating if the transmission shifter is not easy to use. You're shifting directly from low to reverse, skipping everything in between. Many shifters have gates that are more like a maze than anything else. Trying to quickly and easily move between low and reverse can be annoying, but the Pioneer seems to be designed with this in mind. The gates in the shifter have a straight line in them between low and reverse. Also, the shifter is extremely easy to operate, very, very smooth. Of all the side-by-sides I've used to plow snow in the past, and there has been a lot of them, this shifter is among the best. I'm not going to pretend that there's nothing that can be improved when it comes to wintertime use and plowing with the Pioneer the way we have it set up. It's not perfect, but the fact of the matter is that nothing truly is. For starters, the way the door latches work when you add the fabric upper door kit is not something I'd expect from Honda. A thin strap with a hook on the end pulls the handle up. It's extremely simple, and honestly, it is effective, but it's not reliable as the hook sometimes falls off the door handle. And on a setup that costs this much, there is definitely a better, more secure way to open your door. The second thing that's not entirely ideal about how we have this Pioneer set up is that the cab isn't fully sealed. It'll definitely help keep the wind and the snow out, which will keep you warmer than if the cab wasn't there at all. With that said, we chose these specific cab components because they were the most affordable option. Compromises have to be made to keep costs down. Honda does sell a really nice and truly weather-sealed cab kit, but it's going to cost you thousands more than the setup we chose. Now, like with the cab, we chose not to include a heater in this build to try and keep it as affordable as possible. If it were my personal Pioneer, I'd definitely install Honda's excellent heater kit. It features a 3-speed fan with temperature control that allows maximum heat output in cold climates. The multi-zone mode allows the user to direct the hot air flow where it's needed most, including the windshield, your body, and the floor. This will definitely help keep you warmer, but it'll also help stop condensation from building up on the windshield and the windows. The upgrades we've made to this 2025 Pioneer have taken it from a side-by-side that can plow snow to one that makes plowing snow easier and more comfortable in every way, with the added benefit that recreational use in the wintertime is also more enjoyable. If you live somewhere that actually gets winter like we do, and you want a side-by-side that can be used through all 4 seasons, Honda's Pioneer 1000 5P is a great base platform that gets even better with a few carefully selected Honda accessories that you can have installed right at your Honda dealership.
Dirt Tracks has been sponsored by Kawasaki. Let the good times roll. And BRP Performance Exhaust, built for the victory lap. And by Hercules Tire. Ride in our strength.
So by this point, I think almost all of you have seen our 10-year anniversary WR700 Grizzly build, and you know that I am really impressed with how it turned out. But I have had a lot of people asking for more information. So here you go. Now, when I told you that we accomplished our goal and made the Grizzly into a very capable sport ute ATV that could stand up to the Scrambler and Renegades, I don't think I emphasized enough just how capable this ATV truly became. I had high hopes, but I knew that we were working with a chassis that was not designed with a sport side application. Sure, we had done it 10 years ago, and the end result was a very capable sport ute, but a lot of water has passed under the Grizzly bridge, and I just didn't know if all of the refinement to make the Grizzly a well-mannered and comfortable utility ATV would allow us to increase in real-world performance and rideability. Obviously it did, and I am impressed. Like, so impressed that I think that Yamaha really needs to take a hard look at this vehicle, because there are so many Yamaha faithfuls asking, no, screaming for something just like it, and I think the potential is definitely here. But on to something more. 2 questions, 2 things I've been asked a lot. Is there anything stock on the vehicle that we left that didn't fully follow through and maybe had any issues with? And number 2, is there anything left yet to do? First up, the durability question. Did we experience anything that didn't stand up? Truthfully, no. Nothing has succumbed to the extra abuse, faster pace, and harder hits this build has taken. Now, I will tell you that previous to our build, we did have a tie rod grade on a bit of a curve after kissing a rock riding down the trail in stock form. So to me, the stock tie rods will need to be upgraded, as I have heard from quite a few folks of similar issues in stock form. So now with our beefed up suspension, heavier tire and wheel package, and more aggressive riding, I imagine that the stock tie rod will be even less happy with us. But all in all, we did not experience any failures of the stock components when adding all these extra performance improvements on. And for that, I have to give Yamaha some big time credit for building a very solid Grizzly. Now, the second and possibly most important question, is there anything that I would still like to do to the Grizzly build? And this is where it gets interesting. I guess the real answer here lies in how everyday rideable do we want this thing to be. I didn't set out on this build to make a Grizzly that's super unattainable for the average guy to build. I wanted this to be a Grizzly for the person who likes to work on their ATV and sees the potential of the Grizzly, plus loves the reliability of Yamaha. I believe we accomplished this. Now, moving forwards, I do see some steps that can be taken, but that's not without what I imagine will be a decrease in overall reliability in the long run. Sure, EHS Racing hooked us up with the upgraded air intake cover, the new air intake that was massive, the billet adapter for that huge filter, and also the fuel programmer. But in terms of engine performance mods, these are fairly tame. We didn't touch anything internally. Now, would I like to? The answer is both yes and no. I want to go for broke with the Grizzly and let a company like EHS have their way with the 700, but I also realize that this will be a next level build and will change the focus of the Grizzly somewhat. Do I think there's more available from the 700? Oh, I know that there is. And with a full engine build, I do believe we could have something here that would, dare I say, even rival the bigger bore sport four-wheel drive builds from other manufacturers. But at what cost, both financially as well as reliability-wise? And this is where I want to leave the answer to you. Seriously, I want to know what you guys think that we should do with this build. Do we leave it as it is current and let it live out its life like this? Or do we take it to the next level? Reach out to us on our socials as well as our webpage and let us know what you think should be done with the WR700 in the 2025 year.